Hey guys, my name is Ken. I'm with the Door Church, and we're kicking off our Freedom Friday series, and we're going to kick it off with a testimony, because what better way to show that God sets people free than to share a personal testimony. Mine specifically deals with anxiety. I had developed an anxiety disorder, and the reason it's called an anxiety disorder is because anxiety is something that everybody experiences, and it's totally normal. It's God's gift to us that we have a way to handle stress. That's all. Whenever we talk about anxiety, that's all it is. It's just we experience stress in life, but whenever it gets out of control and it really becomes like a disorder, that's where it starts to become bondage, and that's not what God wants for us. And I experienced that personally. I was experiencing an average of 3 to 5 panic attacks a day, so as little as 1 or 2. And as many, I think, as 12 or 13 in one day. I developed a panic disorder that became a really destructive habit, a really destructive pattern. And, I prayed about it, and I just asked God to take it away. And I remember there was actually one night specifically that I was sitting on my couch, and I thought I was having a heart attack. Because that's, if you have anxiety disorder, you know that there's different symptoms that come up that you start to think that you have an actual health problem, or it could just be anxiety. There's tons of people I've met that struggle with anxiety, that they would go to the hospital to find that there's nothing wrong. Then you feel like you're crazy. And I would just say to them that you're not alone, that these are things that other people do experience. But anyway, so I remember one night I was on the couch, and I thought I was having a heart attack. And it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, well, great. I had just moved back in with my mom. I wasn't doing well in life, so of course the stress piles on. And I remember thinking, I was like, so am I gonna go wake up my mom? I was like in my early 20s, I think I was 22 or 23. I would feel really foolish if it ended up being nothing. Do I call 911 and go to the hospital and have a huge bill for no reason, because there's nothing wrong with me, or do I just sit here on the couch and die? And it was a really hard moment for me, because it was that point where I started to feel like I was just going to give up. And God told me not to. As soon as that happened to me, God was like, don't give up. That's not your personality. And that's not my personality. Just as many other people I've met with anxiety, they're also very driven people. And this is not who I was. I couldn't just sit down and just take it. And I was like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to either get online and research, or just keep praying until I figure out what's going on, but I had to do something. And the different things I found, number one, I quit searching everything online, because there's a lot of stuff online that's not helpful. Everything you go and look up when you have anxiety symptoms, it makes them worse, so just don't do that. That was the first revelation I had. And second revelation I had was, what would Jesus do? That's a big question we always ask. That's what everybody's always, there's a big thing in the 90s. Okay, what would Jesus do about it? And I didn't really understand that, because I didn't think that Jesus would ever struggle with anxiety disorder. And more than that, though, he left a pattern for us to show us how to do things. He was fully God and fully man. But the fact that he was fully man, he showed us how to live as a human being. And so you would start to see things like how he would go off to himself. He would go off and he would pray. He wouldn't always do what everybody wanted all the time. It wasn't just because he was God and he was sovereign, but he's also just like us. We can say no, things like that. It's just little changes that, just like anything else, it's a habit you have to break. Previous patterns you have to break to start new ones. And God just really kind of showed me a different way, and taking time to just get my mind off things. When I'm really stressed out, just do something to just completely envelop my mind and completely focus my mind on something and get it off of my problems. And when you stop and you just do that, you notice, like, maybe you go with an hour or two without having symptoms. That was something that I experienced. So I'm like, okay, so this really is in my head. I'm totally fine. I'm just going to roll with that. I'm fine. God's got me. I'm safe. And so, taking these poor life habits that I had before, staying up all night and drinking and drinking coffee all the time. And, these are things that God told me, okay, well, you need to take those out too. And so there's just those little areas that God has really just given me those revelation. And if you are struggling with anxiety or you have anxiety right now, or somebody who does, point them to God, because without God, I could have gone and researched a bunch of stuff, but would it have stuck? Would I have known what to follow? Would I have known what to believe? Would it have been applied properly? I had to put God in the middle of it. And it's actually funny, just today my boss is also a Christian. He was talking about how that's one of the main things that we have trouble with as a society is surrendering. And I had to surrender. I had to surrender my stress and my worry, because if you do not surrender it, it's going to stay with you. You haven't given it away, so you still have it. Why would you want that? So I just, I hope my testimony ministers to you. And, that surrender was the number one thing that I had to do. So I hope you can do that.